In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my exact content strategy on Instagram that helped me get weekly clients, weekly inquiries, and helped me create a system that sold for me so that my content was constantly bringing me clients. Yes, that is possible. Yes, it can be simple. When you know how to create really good content, you don't need anything else. You don't need a website. You don't need a sales team, sales closers, whatever. You just need to create good content, good messaging, and people need to see it all the time, and they need to be going through your funnel so that they want to buy from you. What's up? My name's Molly. I'm a six-figure coach. If you don't know me, I scaled my business with one single offer to 6 figures a year in less than 9 months by creating really good content. And that is something that I became known for, is creating good content on Instagram that really attracts a high ticket buyer. And I did this all without sending out cold DMs, without constant launching, all just by creating really good content and knowing how to invite people to my offer and create connections because of that. And I'm going to be sharing with you that strategy here. And before I get into the strategy, I really want to highlight just how important content is. Like, this is probably one of the most important videos that you'll watch if you're somebody who is just trying to get to 10K, 20K months, something consistent that will help you continue to attract clients all the time versus just in a launch or whatever. You really want to build a brand long term. This is going to be a really important video for you because you need to create content and know how to create content on repeat without really thinking about it too hard, but know exactly what you need to say and do to show up to attract more clients into your world. So the way that you make your content sell for you and generate curiosity in the first place is you should be changing perspective. You are not going on and just sharing generic content where you're giving people a how-to step-by-step. You are actually changing their perspective and introducing them to your way, your unique method, your way of doing things, etc., etc., etc. And that is what's going to get people to think, wow, this person is interesting. I really want this. I really want to learn it this way. So when people come to my feed, the first impression that I want them to get is, oh wow, she helps people scale without launching. She helps people sign clients on Evergreen really easily without having to show up a lot, right? She gets to live a lot more freedom in her business by creating content and it just bringing in her sales without her constantly selling all of the time. She's on vacation, she's making sales, she's not doing a bunch of calls. Like, that's the way that I want people to really feel. And if you notice with that message, I'm solving a specific problem. I'm not actually just creating desire. There's a problem in the industry that I've seen, and that is people not wanting to do sales calls, people not wanting to spend hours and hours in their DMs chasing leads. They want a really simple way to scale, and I want to make sure that that's very accentuated or shown throughout my content. So that's really, really important before I get into the strategy on exactly what you're going to do. So I want you to first think about, what is the thing that makes you different? What problem do you solve specifically that is really going to help you stand out amongst your competitors? Not necessarily be better, but just be different. Okay, so now for the strategy. The first type of content you want to have is going to be your top of funnel content. This content is going to be content that's a lot more broad. So you're not really thinking about really specific niche content where your ideal audience would follow. You really want to think about what is a broader type of content that can attract more people and will just kind of please the algorithm a little bit more. Because I know, for example, if I make a post about no sales calls, it's not going to necessarily reach a lot of people because it's so specific, but that kind of content is generally what I'm going to be making the most of. But I know that if I want to get visible and I want more people to actually see the content I want them to see, I need to create broader content. So this kind of content can be storytelling content, which does really well for a lot of creators, not just coaches. But if you're a coach, I specifically would use storytelling, especially if you're a fitness coach, right? If you're a fitness coach, you have a story to tell. You had a kind of like a ground zero moment. You had to have some sort of story arc that got you to be doing what you're doing right now, right? It doesn't have to be like somebody else's. Your story is unique. But when you're thinking of your story, I still want you to think about the elements of what made you create the program that you created today. So you're still kind of thinking about your unique method, but you're not really blatantly saying it. You're thinking of these storytelling elements. So here's an example of something that I did right here. And here's a couple more examples in other niches that I really like that I see people do in the Reels format that work really well and really helps you connect with your audience. This content is not to sell. This content is, again, to reach a broader audience by having a bigger message. You want it being broad content. Another type of content that I like to do in this case is I like to study my competitors. I like to study what's working, and I like to find the outliers inside of other people's content. So whatever post or type of content is doing really well for them compared to their other content, and if there's someone who is like currently growing right now, if they're currently growing their account and I notice there's certain type of post that they're posting that helped them do that, I like to take note of that and really think of my own way of doing it. I'm not necessarily copying them, but I'm really taking note of what's working and drawing inspiration from that. For example, a huge thing that really helped me grow on Instagram is I would really create these tip style reels kind of like this, where I talk about like how to do something specific so that that person can watch it and actually apply what I'm teaching them immediately. It's not necessarily going to help them get to 10K months or whatever, but it's something that's going to kind of be on the outskirts of what I do. It's kind of like it does a little bit of what I talk about, but in a sense, it's not necessarily like super specific. It's very related to what I do. Maybe it's a part of my brand or something that's important to me, something that I like as well that will really help find and attract the masses, because a lot of people want to grow their following, right? So I'm going to attract a lot more people when I talk about those certain things and different ways to grow an account, because I know that that's what's going to work. Now, I don't really do this type of content as much anymore, but I definitely wanted to throw this in there because it is something that definitely helped me grow my account in the first place, was really seeing what worked and then finding my own footing and kind of going off on my own. I do a lot more of middle of funnel content, which we're going to get to in a second, than anything. And I still like to do the storytelling element. And that's something that I personally am making sure that I do at least like once or every 2 weeks at least in my content, is the storytelling element. And there are some brands that will actually like flourish with creating storytelling content, and that can also be their middle funnel content as well. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. This is just the way that I grow math content in my head and make it really simple and make it just make a lot of sense. And it has worked extremely well for me. Another type of top of funnel content that I would recommend creating is long form content. So this can be content like on YouTube or on your podcast. And you can do this like once a week or something like that. But I really recommend it because this is what's going to get even more people to watch you, but have them watch your videos and consume your content a lot longer than they would just a typical reel or a typical carousel. This type of content can be considered top of funnel because this is how people find you. They go to YouTube and they search for certain topics. You want to be creating videos on YouTube, for example, with these types of topics. Same thing with your podcast. If you want people to find you in certain ways, you want to be creating specific like niche episodes that will help more people find your podcast or find your YouTube video. So you want to basically just optimize whatever platform you're using for visibility in that kind of manner. And this is just another layer, another way you can do it. You can also just focus on Instagram as well and make sales. But if you're somebody who has like been following me or watching my other videos, I talk about how long form content is a huge component of attracting high ticket clients because of how fast you can really build trust with someone. And of course, you don't want to just create like these viral type posts all the time. You really want to focus on what's going to make you the most money and just have a strategy where you know, if you're going to have YouTube videos, let's say every month you're going to do one video a week, you at least want to do like maybe one or two that are a lot more for how people can find you. And then the other two can be a lot more for people that will be a lot more likely to buy and work with you. So those are going to be a lot more niche and related to your offer specifically. Now, the second kind of content and the most important, something that you want to be posting the majority of, is middle of funnel content. And this is where you are going to talk about what makes you different, the perspective shifts, right? This is where you're going to show people what they're missing, what makes you different, what makes you better. And I would do different content that's a mixture of opinionated content and then specific storytelling content. So storytelling content like how I did X without needing Y, right? How I made 30K in sales without being on my stories incessantly or without launching all the time. This is going to really get a lot of curiosity into your unique method and really help show people what they're missing and how your way is possible, how it solves a certain problem that they just don't want to have to do. I know my audience doesn't want to have to be selling all the time. They don't want to be going through these launch cycles on and on and on. They want to just create content and be well known, and they want clients to come to them in a really easy and fun way because they show up and they give value and they get money in return. And that's the way that I want my clients to feel. And that's the problem that I know I'm solving for my audience and for my clients. So I'm going to make sure that this content really shows the the perspective shift. This content isn't necessarily to like get views, but it actually can in a lot of different ways, a lot of different niches, especially if you maybe find some fun trending audios to really share your opinion. Those I have seen do really well, even for me and for a lot of other niches and my clients as well. So it's not like this won't necessarily get you any views or anything like that. They totally can. This is why I would still do it like so often, a lot more than the first tier. But kind of understand too that there are storytelling elements that are a lot more to reach more people. Whereas here, you're going to be a lot more, talking to that person that's going to be a lot more ideally wanting to be in your program or ideally wanting to buy from you. So you really want to segment them by creating this type of content. And this type of content is what is going to, again, find the right people and really connect and help them see why you are the person that's going to help them. How are you going to solve their problem, etc. Now here's an example of an opinionated content that I've done and an example of a storytelling piece of content that I've done that really fit this middle of funnel type content. And these pieces of content have actually provided me clients, so you know that this works and I can definitely vouch for them. And in terms of like how I deliver these pieces of content, it's not that I'm not telling people how to do something, but I'm still focused on a perspective shift over just giving value. I'm not just saying how to sign clients next month. I'm saying how to sign clients without 10K followers, right? How to do this without that. Why you don't need this, and really helping people see what I mean and why, and giving them that proof. Now, if you watch my last videos, I kind of give you a framework of how I sort of set up my pieces of content. I believe it's in the last video that I've done, yeah. But I'll link it up here, so in case you want to watch and see what I mean. I do have a framework that really helps set up these posts, that helps people really see the perspective shift so that they want to buy from me. But these are genuinely like my favorite types of posts to create, and I am constantly creating it. If you look at my feed now, everything is somewhat of an opinionated content. You're getting a new way of looking at things. I'm telling you what you don't need and what I believe is BS in the industry, even if someone else says otherwise. I'm shaping my own voice and my own unique perspective, my own thoughts, and this is what really helped me build a community. I remember the first time I posted a piece of content like this was because I saw people posting reels all wrong, and I made a post that was like, stop posting reels. And that was a huge crazy thing to say at the time because Reels was so new, and I was just like, this is ridiculous because people are teaching Reels wrong. It's just getting people to go viral, and they're not actually learning how to make sales, and it just really bothered me. So I remember I made a post, and I just distinctly remember that post because I remember that was when people started to take me seriously as an expert versus just some girl Instagram guru, right? They saw me as someone with a different way of looking at things. They started to seek out my content and really wanted to learn from me specifically versus somebody else. And that's super valuable. That is when you know you are creating a community that is going to buy from you because you're building so much trust. So this is so important, and this is essentially why it works. Lastly, you have your bottom of funnel content. Now, I don't really post bottom of funnel content on my feed. I just make it really simple and do the top of funnel and middle funnel for my feed. For the bottom of funnel, this is where you are actually selling your offer to people that you've already segmented and created a know, like, trust relationship, right? They already know why they should buy. So you don't want to spend all your time trying to convince them why they should buy from you. They should know that already. They already know what makes you unique. They're already in the trenches with you. Maybe they even downloaded or watched a long form piece of content where they learned even more, and they already started trying to apply the things that you're teaching them. That is the type of person that you want to have in your space because it's going to be really easy to sell to them. Now, there are two different ways that I sell, and I only sell like this through my stories, through my email, or at the end of a video that maybe like a masterclass video that I want them to rewatch and get like my strategy, and I have a specific pitch at the end, right? That's the only times I sell because, again, I'm not wasting my time selling to just anybody and everybody. But let's say, for example, you are going to just focus on selling on your stories. I do this in two ways. I do problem awareness content, and this is problem awareness content to the person that's already in the trenches. They already want to learn it your way. What do you notice people are still getting wrong? What are they doing different so that you can help them see how your program is going to help them solve that? Now, for example, people following me, maybe they really want to create long-form content and they're trying to create long-form content. I'm trying to reach those people that are either interested in creating that long-form content or are currently creating long-form content, but it's just not bringing them clients. So I might highlight a win that I've had with long-form content, and then I might say something like, this is why your long-form content isn't converting, and you're just giving away all this information, but it's not actually getting anywhere with your clients. They're just taking and they're not actually going into your application or something like that, where it can actually tell them exactly what they're doing wrong and what they need instead, and then how my program will specifically help them do that, help them learn how to do it, how I help them specifically get those results, and then maybe throw in a testimonial, right? Or I could do something else that's a lot more simple, and that is let results speak for themselves, right? So letting results speak for themselves. Highlighting your own wins or highlighting a client win is just the best way to sell, because it's so easy. You don't have to like speak or say all these different things. You can just show, hey, look, this is what's happened in my program when people use my method. DM me if you want to join, or DM me this word and I will send you an application to my program to help you do the same, right? It can be that simple when you already have a community that's behind you and they already know all the other things that you want to talk about. They pretty much understand why they should buy. The only thing that you need to do is give them more opportunities to join, to pitch your offer. And this is why I personally like to do promos, so that you can really help get people moving, get the ball rolling for people who are on the fence and they do want to join, but they just need a reason to join now. You want to give them the invite. Maybe your price is increasing next month. You want to really be hitting that home and giving them that time to join your offer. Now, lastly, putting it all together, this is kind of what your content calendar can look like to really simplify this method and really think about, okay, what are my goals? Am I trying to get more views? Am I trying to get more sales? Something that I want to add for content is really making this super simple and not overthinking. So for example, when I think of my top of funnel content, I'm not necessarily trying to think of all these new ideas. I have different groups of types of posts that I create, and I just recreate over and over and over again, so that I don't have to constantly be thinking about what to do. Once you do your market research, find groups that work. So for example, if you find that storytelling works, you have a group of posts that you want to post at least maybe twice a week, where it's about your story, because you know that it's done well and you've seen competitors do really well with that. So you want to just keep throwing in that kind of post so that you can continue to generate visibility of what is already working. Maybe you're really good at graphic design and you show a bunch of Canva hacks, because you know that's going to get the right people to your page, but really reach the masses. And something that I have also found that really has worked for me in the past is whenever you are giving away a very tangible piece of advice, like something that someone can go implement right now in this very moment, it tends to get a lot more views and a lot more visibility, a lot more saves, which will really be helpful for you gaining a lot more traction to your page, versus something that's going to take a lot longer to implement, like how to make 10K months, right? If you can give somebody a very tangible piece of advice that they can do and use right now and kind of become known for that, like something that really works well that I've also seen is creating series type content where people want to keep coming back for more. They want more of that type of content. This is the type of content that I really look at how to gain a following and grow your audience, but not necessarily how to sell a high ticket offer, because you're not segmenting, you're not helping people see exactly what makes you different and giving them a reason to actually pay you thousands of dollars to then join your program. So you really want to have these different types of content that will help do that. So make sure that whatever you're doing at the top of your funnel still really relates to what you do in the middle of funnel. You don't want to go completely AWire and not do anything at all related to what you actually talk about and what you actually sell. You want it to have a lot of parallels, but you don't necessarily have to speak to that one person. You can be a lot more broader in some of your content, is basically what I mean. Anyways, I hope this video helped. I hope it made a lot of sense and clarified exactly how to show up on your Instagram to start getting more sales and more visibility all at once without overcomplicating it, and really learning how to structure it in your mind so where it's very repeatable. You can show up consistently and you can make sales, and you don't have to think that hard. You don't have to spend hours and hours creating content, but it will still get you views and get you sales. And that's ultimately what I'm here to help you do. I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.